This is Nadisha in Chicago, and you are watching my channel, Knowledge for Quality of Life. Friends, I welcome all those who have recently joined the channel, and I request, as usual, to participate in the comments, give your opinions, share the vlogs, which I am sharing the information for the better quality of life for the people whom you live with. Whether they are your friends, they are your families, they are your loved ones, please spread the information. And that's all the my objective is on this channel. That's why I do once a week vlog. Sometimes I miss that week as well, due to my, hectic schedule. Even though I'm partly retired, after working as a civil servant in the 30 government for 34 years, but I'm still doing part-time consulting. So, I have said in many vlogs that, about the nutrients, that, the type of nutrients our body demands based on the functionality of the entire processes which takes place 24/7. And these nutrients are fundamental for our well-being. But at the same time, we have been hearing that technology is increasing, healthcare is increasing, everything we have improved in the last 30, 40, 50 years dramatically. We have gone exponentially in technology front and in healthcare improvement front, medical wise, medicine wise, you name it. But we don't see the decrease in the diseases, the illnesses, the type of diseases we are getting indulged in. So what is it? Is it something God given, or is it by nature, or what is it? And I had the same questions, a few years back, and I've been digging and I've been reading, and you know, I read a lot on various subjects. So it's not only medical. One of these days I'm going to share with you my journey that I'm still learning, and I've trained my brain as a sponge so I can soak it in anything I want to. Okay. So I've been asking this question particularly, and when things were told to us in the past and recently in our community guidelines, that processed food and ultra processed food, they are bad for us. They are not good for our consumptions. They take us to the ill health down the road. So I had this query, and just recently, yesterday, I received an article from Science Alert about erythritol. It's a sugar substitute that increases the stroke risk, that increases they have tested, in the research that people who carry erythritol in their blood, they increase their heart attack risk by twice as much. And so I had this inquiry that, what are the different types of chemicals and additives and preservatives which are present in the processed food or ultra processed food which we are picking on a daily basis, when we do the groceries. So I made this inquiry to ChatGPT, and I dug this information vividly, and I have come up with some, guidelines, so to speak, that ChatGPT gives me, and so I made my inquiry accordingly. That give me the additives, give me the preservatives, all the chemical ingredients present in the food items, which may be a processed food or ultra processed food. Give me the chemical which is added to this food production, and give me the simultaneously side effects to the health. What can it cause? What can it lead to? So let me share my screen with you. By no means this is a cheat sheet, or by no means this is a guideline, but this is something which I have initiated for educating myself, because I have done many vlogs before, homemade cooking and home based, because from the last 35, 40 years, we try our level best at our home, that make it everything home. Yeah, we do go out for eating outside, where we cannot, ditch that choice because we have to. We don't have any choice, like we are on vacation or something, and we try our level best with the knowledge we have to pick the lesser of the two evils, basically. So I will share this information with you. And, when you go next time for grocery shopping, try to accommodate this idea in your schedule that, try to read the ingredients. What are you picking unintentionally? Sometimes we do unintentionally things which can lead us to detrimental effect, but it's not overnight detrimental effect I'm talking about. It's a slow and steadily taking us towards that path, which we call it ill health. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. So what you're seeing here, I made an inquiry. An inquiry was that please give me all the additives and chemicals names that are used in processed and ultra processed foods, along with the health risks that are associated with them in a table form. This was my inquiry, and the results came up pretty much good for my use, for my understanding. And if I needed to revise, I would have communicated with ChatGPT in a dialogue form, and I could have revised it, because I use various forms of AI extensively for various reasons. Not only at my work, but for health and for working on my car, and many things. It's my daily routine, basically. It's my go-to. Before, I used to dig internet for information. Before internet, there was a time in library. I used to spend hours and hours in the library. But now information is at our fingertips. Now, the only challenge is that we have to use our intellectual filter to use that information for our advantage. Okay, because AI is not going to give you all the correct information. Okay, you have to dig some other information to verify that, is it legit. So here's the detailed reference table of many common additives and chemicals frequently found in processed and ultra processed food, along with the major health concerns associated with excessive or long-term exposure. Okay, most additives, now this is the punchline which they normally include, so this is a gray area, for consumers like us. Okay, and we take sometimes at a face value and we trust it. But I will caution you that always question these things. Most additives approved by regulatory agencies are considered safe within allowable limits. Okay, but the latest research is showing something else. Okay, but growing research suggests, and it marks here, as a disclaimer, but growing research suggests that high intake of ultra processed foods may contribute to chronic disease risk. And there's a reference here for food additives back in November 15, 2023 by World Health Organization, WHO. Okay. Now, this is a list of artificial colors which they use in the foods. Okay. Red 40, Allura red, candy. The common uses are candy, soda, cereal. People use cereal left and right, for the breakfast. What the possible health concerns and risk? Hyperactivity in sensitive children, allergic reaction. Okay, artificial colors, yellow 5, tartrazine, chips, drinks, candies, allergies, behavioral concern. Okay, artificial color, yellow 6, snacks, beverages, possible inflammation, behavioral effect. So this is a list goes on. Blue 1, blue 2, drinks, desserts, candy, cereals, possible hypersensitivity reaction, limited animal concerns regarding tumors. Okay, this type of blue 2 color. Artificial color, red 3, erythrocene, candies, baked goods, thyroid tumor concerns in animal studies. Okay, of course, sometimes they cannot do the studies for the ethics concerns on the humans, so they use animals as a guinea pig, and then they enlarge their studies if it's a very valid concerns on the human trials as well. So first they do either on mouse or on animal, different types of animals they study, and then they extend it if need be. Then there's a class, we call it preservatives. And now remember that, preservatives increases the shelf life. We know that, okay? Because I make my own bread and, it has to be finished within a week or two at the most. Particularly my coconut flour bread, I cannot keep in the fridge. I have to keep it in the freezer, okay? Otherwise, because coconut is a very sensitive to moisture. And any moisture, it's going to create a problem and it's going to go bad pretty quick. So I keep it in the freezer section and I take it out and I, warm it up in the toaster. So if you pick up any bread, I don't care what type of bread in the marketplace, okay? There is something in it. Now, you have to make sure that, you read the ingredients. The lesser the ingredients, better it is, okay? As far as the preservatives are concerned or chemicals are concerned. So we have to educate and train our mind accordingly that when we go for grocery shopping, we read the ingredients, the labels, because, we have to make sure that we have to pick lesser of the two evils if we have to. Preservatives, then here, sodium nitrite, nitrates, it's included in the processed meats, increased colorectal cancer risk, nitrosamine formation, so these are all the list goes and on and on. Preservatives, BHA, cereal, chips, fats, possible carcinogen in animal studies. This another one, preservatives in snack food. We pick these things, we don't even think twice, left and right snacks, because, we keep munching, as a snack, throughout the day. Sometimes, I see in our community center, people are being fed, snacks, all these processed food, which is detrimental, to our health. And this is extremely no. But, all I'm saying that, if you are using it, be mindful of it, that, what you are taking. Basically, I see it that we are eating disease. That's all. That's my definition. Maybe it's extreme for some people, but that's my definition. So if I have to, just like I said before, if I'm on vacation, like I'm going for vacation in September, so I started doing my research now that, what are the things available in that place, what type of grocery shopping I'll be doing, so I have to do my legwork way before that. I'm heading to Italy and I'm going to be on certain time frame, and then, what I'm going to get my hands to, what type of lifestyle they have, what foods are available. So I have to pick. If I have to pick lesser of the two evils, then I'm going to pick lesser of the two evils. Okay. Then here, preservatives, fried foods, oil, nausea, neurotoxicity. This is a neuro issue. Concerns at high doses. Now think about it. All these preservatives and chemicals are adding another risk factor. Now, if my body is, deficient in other nutrients, like I have said in the past, like one of the master nutrient is vitamin D. Now I am at risk already. Now when I'm adding this unintentionally, all these processed foods in my diet, I'm adding another risk factor. So in probability-based analysis, when we calculate the total risk in science, so each risk is taken as an element, as a parameter, and then that risk gets multiplied by another risk and another risk and another risk. So multiply all the risk and it gets amplified in a domino effect. So the more the risk factor associated in your life, the worse it is. Okay, so our job is to eliminate as much as possible individual risk. So that's why we have been guided in the past that education and training of our minds is such that education teaches us that, how to underwrite the risk for whatever we do in our life. It's not about only health, whatever we do in our life. So if I'm sitting behind the wheel and I'm driving, first thing I'm going to underwrite the risk. I'm going to get my driver, my insurance, my auto insurance, because, and then underwriters are going to, based on my age and my other DMV records and all these my tickets in the past, they're going to send it to the underwriter and they're going to underwrite my risk and they're going to give me a premium accordingly. The cleaner my record, the lesser my premium is going to be. Okay. So this is what applies to life as well. Okay. If we can minimize our risk in each front, there are risks which we cannot control. For instance, environmental risk. Yeah. I'm going to the third world country and, there's too much pollution there. Some people in some parts of the world, it's too much pollution. If you go to LA here in United States, it's pollution is there. So the guidelines in California is much more strict than other states. Okay. So there are environmental concerns risk, which I don't have any control over. So whatever the control factors I can control to, as far as the risk is concerned, I should be doing it. That's my bottom line, what I'm trying to allude to. So here, if you look at other, preservatives, sodium benzoate, soft drinks, sauces, it just list is on and on. Potassium sorbate in another preservatives, which is available in cheese, yogurt, baked goods, and everything. What it does, it creates gut issues. A lot of people have gut problems. Gut-related diseases. It creates possible gut irritation. Now here, preservative sulfites. Dried fruit. A lot of dried fruit are preserved in sulfites because it increases the shelf life. Particularly, if you look at the apricots, dried apricots is available in the marketplace, which comes from Turkey. So there is a yellow one, But if you I did one experiment. If I take that yellow, it's sulfide, preservative in it, and if you wash it with warm water and soak it there, it's going to just deplete that color. Basically, that preservatives over time. But there's an option available, which is organic. It's not preserved in sulfite. Okay. It's organic dried fruit. And of course, there's a price difference. What you are buying, So regular dried apricot is like $4.99. That one is $8.99, organic one. So there's a price tag. Unfortunately, the type of world we are living in, that if we want to live close to the nature, we have to pay the premium. That's the sad part of this world which we are living in, unfortunately. Okay, because if we have to live close to the nature, it should be not at the premium price. That's how I look at it, because we've been barricaded to live close to the nature basically, and we are pushed in a way that by the food industry that go towards ill health, and there's another industry which we call medical industry, medical establishment. They said that don't worry about it. If these folks are going to get sick and ill, we are going to take care of them by putting them on drugs, medicine, whatever it needs to be. We are going to keep them alive as long as possible, but we are not guaranteeing anybody is talking about or anybody is discussing what the quality of life is going to be down the hill. Because I see all the time, assisted living center, nursing homes, people are just filling it in, but they are living longer, no doubt about it. They are living longer. Average lifespan is increasing, but the quality of life, it's depleting down the line. It's depleting down. Quality of life is not there. We are living like vegetables. Okay. But my point is that, which I've been saying all these times, that, whatever life span I have been given by Almighty, I want to live it to the fullest. Okay. And whatever it's in my power, I will do it to, live that life that way. Okay. The rest, which is not in my control, leave it up to Him. Okay. So, then there is a group of emulsifiers, which we use in various products. You see this, the list is on and on. So I'm not going to go over it, in detail. I'm going to leave it here so that, one thing I wanted to share with you, that a lot of, folks who go on keto diet, it means very low carb or no carb at all. They use a lot of products which are keto friendly. They call it keto friendly because they have replaced sugar. So for instance, xylitol and erythritol, These are, particularly sugar-free gum. They're using but xylitol is used in many things. And these keto food, with erythritol, which I said earlier in the beginning of the vlog, they use in keto foods that creates digestive upset, possible cardiovascular concerns, and it increases the, stroke risk. So the question is that, this chemical, it impedes the barrier which is naturally present in our brain. It impedes that barrier cells. It kills the capability of those barrier cells, which keeps our brain arteries and very dilated and opened up. Okay, it impedes those cells. So basically, by using keto friendly and replacing, so be mindful of it whenever you use sugarless substitute, sugar-free substitute, whether it's a stevia or anything chemically formed and as an added sugar. Sugar itself is not by nature, right? It's a process thing. Okay, so replacement of sugar, again, it's not good either. So this is very well documented in research, and the Science Alert research paper or that article which I got, I'm going to include in the description as well, so you can read it, what I'm talking about in detail. So be mindful of these things, next time when you go to the grocery shopping. So here, and then, there's a lot of texture agent, they use in baking goods as well. And bleaching agents as well. They use in bread dough, powdered foods, bread. This is another potassium bromate, possible carcinogen. So it takes some time, not a whole lot of time. So we have to make 4 loaves of bread, and we've been making for years, and it has become now routine for us. It doesn't feel like it's a chore. Okay, and we are enjoying our own bread with no chemicals, no preservatives, just raw ingredients, and that's it. We can eat as much as we want, and we can eat guilt-free. Okay, silicon dioxide, powdered foods, generally low concern, but of course it's a, again, added chemical. Calcium silicate for salt and seasoning, phosphoric acid. In cola drinks, a lot of people use these, soft drinks, and it impedes our bone mineral loss concern. It affects in our, bone density, because it leaches out the calcium from the bone. Bone is always under the reformation. Sodium aluminum phosphate, baking mixes, and aluminum accumulation concern, because aluminum is not good. Too much aluminum is not good for our body. That's why we say that, stay away from the aluminum sheets and all that in baking goods and stuff like that, because aluminum leaches, and, it's in the blood, it's not good. Partially hydrogenated oils. We've been getting very good in trans fat, fats, but still in some part of the world, they are still using it. So be mindful of it. It increases, it's a no-no for heart disease related concerns. Then you have a high fructose corn syrup. This is very common in a lot of cereals, in syrups, and it's in sodas and sweets. Obesity, fatty liver. I said I did one vlog on fatty liver disease. Non-alcoholic fatty liver. 49% of the world population is suffering from fatty liver, which is non-alcoholic. It's food driven. Okay, so basically, food-related diseases is a pandemic, okay? You remember that. So maltodextrin, sports drinks, snacks, blood sugar spikes, microbiome effect. It's going to change our microbiome. We have to have a good microbiome, but if we use a process and ultra process, it's going to alter our microbiome, and then diseases are bound to come, no doubt about it. Make no mistake about it, okay? BPA, can linings, endocrine disruption. Our hormones can be disrupted by these. Phthalates, plastic packaging, hormonal disruption again. So this list is endless. And this is not the complete list, by the way. So you see here, synthetic folic acid, cereals, they are present in cereal, and it just excess intake may mask actually B12 deficiency. It's artificially spiked up B12. So it's going to mask the true deficiency. So on the face of it, it's going to give you a false alarm that, you are okay in B12, but you are not. Synthetic vitamin A palmitate, toxicity at excessive intake. Of course, it's present in a lot of fortified foods, but who draws the line on what is excessive and what is normal? Okay, so again, this is a very gray area. So I just wanted to just give you a flavor of it. And important notes here: overall dietary pattern matters more than occasional exposure to individual additives. Ultra processed foods are associated with higher risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, fatty liver disease, certain cancers, gut microbiome disruption. These are all non-communicable diseases, which I've been saying all this time. Many additives are still legally approved because safety evaluations are based on acceptable daily intake, which we call required daily allowance or required acceptable daily intake levels. However, this is the disclaimer. However, newer research is investigating the cumulative effect of multiple additives consumed together. I said earlier that each chemical has an added risk. When you multiply all these chemicals and multiply all these risks in multiplication form, it just blows out. Okay, it just amplifies the effect. So be mindful of it. Emulsifiers such as carrageenan, polysorbate 80, and all these things are increasingly studied for possible gut inflammation and microbiome disruption. So these are common ultra processed foods containing multiple additives. These are the list: sugary cereals, packaged snacks, processed meats, frozen meals, fast food, candy, soft drinks, protein bars, instant noodles, flavored yogurts, and packaged baked goods. Ways to reduce exposure: choose whole or minimally processed foods. Read ingredients labels carefully, as I said. Avoid products with very long list of ingredients. Okay, the lesser is better. Okay, if you have to use it, processed food to begin with. Reduce processed meats and sugary beverages. Prefer foods without artificial flavors and preservatives. Cook more meals at home using fresh ingredients. There is nothing like that. Okay, so let me stop share here. If we eat close to nature, the way nature has wired us, okay, I think going forward, we can enjoy our life more with vigor and energy and to the best of our ability. And, life is a beautiful gift which God has given to us. Preserve it, okay? Don't ruin it. And this is all unintentional. We do it things, we take it at a face value that whatever we've been guided by the food industry, that it's tolerable limit, it's okay. It's required daily intake is fine, normal, but be mindful of it. Okay, there is no such thing because if you take poison this much or this much, okay, if you take this much, the ill effect is going to take cumulative over time, and it's going to give you a huge, with a vengeance, that effect in the long run. So I hope that I relayed some message today, because I feel it for other folks when I see it. Of course, I don't food police you guys. By no means I'm a food police. But my job is that if I'm learning something, if I'm practicing something, and I'm advocating to others, that's better than rather than being a hypocrite and I don't practice something and I'm preaching someone something else. Okay, so whatever I practice, I preach you guys. You like it, use it at your discretion. And at the end of the day, you are going to do yourself a good, your family a good. Okay, because you are the whole world to the family, and your family is whole world to you. Okay, see you next week. Bye.